Kern Valley Healthcare District Board of Directors meeting on Monday, November 8th at 1 p.m. We're trying this new format of meeting during the working hours. And so please let me or Tim or Heidi know how this is working for you. Because we will be talking about this later in the meeting. So we are called to order and we need to have an approval of the agenda.
I can move as such, Ross.
Thank you, Fred. Is John on
I'll
today?
second.
There's John.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second.
Thanks,
Second
John.
Ross.
And Gene, is Gene here? I haven't seen him. Okay. I'd spoken with him earlier and he may not be in. He's been ill and I don't think he was going to be participating in today's meeting. So we need to do a vote. So Fred, your vote.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Well, Dave, since you're there in the conference room, could you lead us with the flag salute today?
Okay.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dave. And Catherine, since you're also in the room, could you lead our invocation?
I can.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, I just want to come before you and thank you for not only the beautiful weather, but for those that are able to attend. And as we try this new time, I just ask that you be with us, that you help us with our decisions as we make decisions for the hospital and for the community. And I just ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Our mission statement is here on the agenda for you to review. Item C is public comment, and this portion of the meeting is reserved for the public to address the board on matters within our jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Does any member of the public wish to be heard? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda are considered non-controversial and routine by staff. And these will all be approved in one motion unless a member of the board or a member of the public would like an item removed from consent and considered individually. Does any member of the public wish an item to be removed from consent? Okay, seeing none, does any member of the board want an item removed from the consent agenda? Okay, I don't see, not hearing anything, so we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Ross.
Go ahead. I'll second, Ross.
So I was John motion and
Yeah.
and Fred second.
Yes.
Any discussion? Okay, Catherine, your vote.
Yes.
John, your vote.
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. The consent agenda is approved. That brings us to item E, an agreement with Tricen to implement the CapEx investment and CEO benefit plan. And I'd seen David Wright earlier. You are here, right, Dave?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So we had considered this at a special meeting on October 22nd, and there were lots of questions. I know at least one of the board members has been corresponding with you, Dave, getting hopefully the answers that he was seeking. Can you just give us a quick recap of what the proposal is? You know, the 3-minute version, and then let us know where we are today, and then we'll open discussion.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. So I will move pretty quick since this is the 3-minute version, but feel free to chime in with any questions that you have. But the idea here initially was to put in a split dollar arrangement for Tim, targeting $24,000 of cash flow in retirement. Retirement defined as his age 73 through 87. So we have been working with the life insurance carriers to go through an underwriting process and price that insurance. It involves placing 2 insurance policies, one to repay the hospital plus interest, interest being the AFR that's in effect on the implementation date, and a second policy to provide that cash flow opportunity for Tim during his retirement years, and if anything is left over, a little bit of death benefit for beneficiaries. Those policies will be based on 2 lives, Tim and his wife, so no death benefits paid until the second life passes. But nonetheless, they're built to and structured to remain in force until both lives are 120 years old. So we don't cut any corners there. We want to make sure that goes well beyond life expectancy. And so recently we were able to get some final decisions from the carriers, and it came back with just, I'm rounding, total capital commitment of $694,000. And that reflects how they price the policies based on Tim and his wife. And we've assumed a 1.86% AFR, which is the November AFR. We don't know what December would be. We've based on the indicators that we follow, we see a slight uptick. November uptick just a little bit from October, so we see that maybe carrying forward a little bit. But nonetheless, that is where we are. And I have been corresponding with a member of the board, answering a lot of very good questions. I think kind of surrounding what worst case scenario is if we don't, have sustained periods of crediting that's below expectation or even at the guaranteed level. What point does the plan start to break down? But I think we've got I think it's very resilient to underperformance. We built it this way on purpose, but happy to entertain any additional discussion on that you all would like.
Dave, could you run down that worst case scenario just so all the board members can hear that?
Certainly. When we looked at 2 worst case scenarios, one is if the policy in all years credits at its guaranteed level and the insurance carriers charge the maximum charges that they could charge by law. And I'll just preface this whole thing. When we look at these worst case scenarios, if these things come to pass, it's not going to be good. I'll say that, but the policies, particularly the repayment policy, which is geared towards paying the hospital back, in that worst case scenario of guaranteed credit and guaranteed charges remains in force for 13 years. So that means the market would have to return 0 or less for 13 consecutive years. And we also ran another one, which you could argue whether it's more or less likely, but it's the guaranteed crediting rate of 0, but the current insurance charges. And if you do that, the policies remain in force for a much, much longer period, but the hospital would be covered for 20 years. So we'd have 20 consecutive years of market at 0 or less, and still have the hospital, taken care of in terms of recovering its capital. In these worst case scenarios, there wouldn't be anything for Tim if he lives beyond those timeframes, just to be completely transparent. But I think me and Tim have talked about that. And again, I think these are unlikely scenarios, but he understands that we are subject to the performance of the policies.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, so this is an action item today, and we're most likely going to be voting on this if we have a motion in a second. So I want to open this up to board members for their well, before we get to the board, are there any members of the public who want to be heard on this issue? Okay, seeing none, then I will turn it over to the board members for your questions, your comments, your opinions, whatever you'd like to offer as in terms of discussing this and deciding how we're going to approach this. Now is your time to be heard.
Ross, I'll gladly go first.
Thank you, Fred.
My only concern is simple, which is the hospital's portion of the investment and the return that we are seeking. Even if we had a guarantee that what we would get back is our initial investment, you would not hear me in a negative format. What I am questioning is simple. There is no guaranteed return of any type with this type of policy should the numbers fall below their expectations. And the length of time for the returns, I'm trying to keep this statement in a positive form because I know what we're trying to do is in the best interest not only of the hospital, but of Tim as well. But once again, I'm looking at the investment dollars going out and a chance of getting back less, and theoretically, in a worst case scenario, none of what the investment is. That's why we're asking those questions, and the difficult one saying, you know, is there a guaranteed rate of return? I believe that answer is 0. Is there a guaranteed death benefit? I also believe that is 0 if it does not perform. If I'm incorrect, now would definitely be the time to fill me in.
No, there is a guaranteed return of 0. So if the market does -20, the policy will get 0. And then based on those guaranteed assumptions, there is a guaranteed death benefit, but that only lasts for a period of time.
Correct.
So there is a point at which the returns, you know, market does poorly enough over an extended period of time. And again, I just want to be transparent because the last thing we want is you all to be disappointed and Tim to be disappointed. Yeah, there are scenarios where this is not good for anybody. I think they're unlikely, but I appreciate your questions, and I'd be bringing this very thing up if you weren't.
Thank you.
Anything else, Fred?
No, I've made it clear on where I'm at. Thank you, Ross.
Thanks. Catherine, do you want to be heard on this?
Nope, I think I've already voiced my opinions.
All right, thank you. John?
Yeah, some of my concerns were similar of Fred's, but I know at the last meeting I think it was actually Catherine that brought up the concept if there were similar opportunities for employees to have a similar plan, but not as exorbitant, I guess. So I can kind of sense why some other staff members might, you know, look at this as a I don't know, like an issue. I'm not saying that there would be an issue. I'm just saying, you know, there's always that possibility. So I think David has kind of answered all my initial questions with relation to what Fred was asking, because those were kind of my concerns as well, the more that I read into it.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I guess where I am is, you know, I see this as an investment where potentially, you know, in all likelihood, the district is going to make its money back plus interest plus more. You know, there are no guarantees that that is going to be the outcome, but chances are it will. And yeah, there's some risk involved. There's no guarantee of the return. But like I say, you know, with the way our economy is working, the way the markets work, there's a pretty good chance that the assumptions are going to come correct with the way they've been presented to us. And so I see this as an opportunity to provide stability for the district during the time of construction, which I think is really important. I think that's a very important thing. By providing this incentive for Tim to stay, we get that stability. And I guess that's where I am. I think that's an important aspect. And, you know, despite some level of risk here, I think it's worth the investment. And so I'd really like to move forward with this. But I'm not sure everybody's in the of the same opinion.
Well, Ross, I don't disagree with you at all. I think it's all in the best interest of the hospital and Tim, but you know, I think it's just the whole issue of risk. And I know that in life there's always risks, but I get where you're coming from though, and I totally agree with you and respect the opinion of it.
Okay.
Well-
So is anybody willing to make a motion to approve this item?
I will so move, Ross.
Okay. John moves. Do we have a second?
Ross, I'll be honest, I'm moving against it, but just in the best interest of the hospital, I'll give it a second.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion before we vote? Okay, Catherine, your vote.
No.
John, your vote.
Yes.
Fred, your vote.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So we will enter into this agreement with Tri-Send. Like I say, I really think this is a win for the district on several different levels. So, David, how do we where do we go from here?
Well, we would just need to make sure that everybody's had a chance to review the plan agreement and is comfortable with the terms as they are. I think there's at least been an initial review of that. So we'd need to tidy that up, get the policies issued, and set a closing date. November obviously gives us some challenges of having a holiday towards the end. But we're used to accommodating those types of things. So we just have to work together, see what's a reasonable date. I know on our end, our underwriting folks need at least a couple of weeks to make sure that the documents are all pulled together, policies are issued. They come to us, we check them, make sure they're accurate, and then get them issued by the carrier, get it all packaged up, and get it out for final review. And then we can do one of two things. I can come out there and we can do this in person, or we've also been able to do these remotely, given the circumstances. So it's whatever you folks are most comfortable with. One way or the other, we're going to make it easy. We're going to guide you through all of it. And just, again, try not to make this something that takes a lot of pain and effort on y'all's part. We bear most of that.
Thank you. Okay. So Tim, are you able to work directly with David to finalize the documents?
I can certainly do that. Absolutely. And I do appreciate the vote of support for the deal. Means a lot. And like I said, it's, we looking forward to 7 more years now. So it's going to be a challenge, but again, this is a huge incentive for me. So
Great.
We'll make it happen.
Okay. Thank you all. Very good discussion. Appreciate all your input on this.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will go to item F on the agenda, the reports. And we'll start with the foundation report.
So we're gearing up for the Heart Walk, and hopefully you guys can all attend. It's February 26th. And we will also be doing our wine and chocolate. And I believe that's February 10th, but I'll be sending out information as we get closer. That's all I have.
Thanks, Debbie. Okay, Cindy, auxiliary report.
Well, the auxiliary is doing awesome. Getting in a lot of donations, hand over fist donations. We got, I don't know how many today. And we're gearing up for our annual Christmas party, which of course you are all invited to attend. It will be December 8th at the Eagles at 12 o'clock noon. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
Dr. Finstead, our medical staff report.
All right, thank you, Ross. The Bioethics Committee met on October 4th and discussed a number of things related to the COVID pandemic, including ethical considerations on the vaccine mandates and offering incentives for vaccine recipients, with particular emphasis related to our local population and things. Also discussed telemedicine use and long-term care situations. In addition to that, they discussed an upcoming implementation of a nationwide suicide prevention number, things. And then the Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee met on October 11th. We discussed changes or updates on the COVID-19 situation. We also reviewed and approved a policy. This is the one regarding the procedural sedation that we've made some changes in to make it more current with current practices. And then we also reviewed the monthly reports, critical access, patient safety team, medication area inspections. The ED committee met on October 21st, reviewed their statistical reports for September. They had a discussion regarding length of stay, increasing lengths of stay in the ED. They also reviewed and approved the procedural sedation. So other than using procedural sedation in the GI lab, the ED is the place where it gets used the most. And that's an area with just the nature of the practice. There can be variations from practice, including documentation and paperwork and things. We've tried to simplify that to get everybody on board and things, and having improved concurrent monitoring regarding this. They also reviewed medication error reduction program and medication shortage issues. The Medical Executive Committee met on October 26th and approved the 3 files for reappointment that were voted on earlier. In addition to that, we approved and discussed that procedural sedation policy again. We also updated the privilege request form for internal medicine privileges, and then discussed our usual reports, the medication shortages, CDPH plan of correction, delinquency rates, and action reports from the medical board. And then finally, the Infection Control Committee met on November 2nd and reviewed their monthly reports, including employee exposure, hand hygiene compliance, and MRSA active surveillance testing and monitoring things. And that's the end of my report, unless anybody has any particular questions.
I do have a question for you, Dr. Finstead. With the changes to our in-house pharmacy now imposed by the state, restricting our ability to compound medication, what kind of impact is that going to have on our operation?
Well, this has been an issue for a long time, needless to say, just because of our physical facilities. So one of the things that pharmacy has done is tried to buy pre-mixed medications in as many forms as we can have available to avoid the compounding issue. So that is definitely improved from how it has been in the past, but we still need to compound medications and things. So this is going to be an issue. I mean, it's going to be an issue. We're going to need to be able to compound medications. For instance, the main medication we're using right now is remdesivir for the hospitalized COVID patients. And we have a bumper crop of hospitalized COVID patients, just going along with the increases in Kern County locally and increases in community testing. So I don't think this is anything that's going to go away. I was out of town last week. I don't know all the details. I've got a meeting set up tomorrow with CCON to for us to discuss these issues and things. But it's well, it's kind of a critical situation, and and we obviously need to be able to treat people with the medications that they need, and particularly now with the difficulty in transferring patients out of the ED just because of how impacted the systems are, and things. So, yeah.
Gary, I'll give a little bit of an update at my report as well, where we're at.
Okay. Anyway, that's
Thank you.
any other questions?
Board members, any questions?
No, sir.
All righty.
No, Rob.
Thanks, Dr. Finstead.
Okay, all right. You are welcome.
Okay, Tim, we'll turn it over to you. Chief
Great.
Executive Officer report.
Thank you. Again, COVID is still, as Dr. Finstead indicated, still with us. I believe we've got 5 in-house right now on the acute unit. Our community testing actually began showing a slowdown in positivity rate. From this last week, we ran at only 23% positive, which is down from 35% for the prior 2 or 3 weeks. So that's a good sign that things are moving in the right direction. Let me get into the pharmacy issue. Again, we did have the issue with the Department of CDPH coming in, inspecting us and so forth, and basically finding that, we had some issues with mold and vaccine bacteria in there. One of the things that we have done is obviously we have stopped compounding medications there right now. And this would be for multiple use or extended use type things. For emergency utilization, we can continue to compound in the hospital. So we're able to do that in the emergency department if we need to. We are also able to do that, on the nursing stations for, reconstitution of drugs. As Dr. Vincent indicated, we have begun buying more of our medications pre-mixed so that we don't have this kind of a problem. What we did do is, after the meeting was I reached out to Kern Medical to see if there was some way that they could help us with this, only to learn that Kern Medical themselves cannot compound any medications whatsoever, other than for emergency drugs. And so they are actually contracting with Memorial Hospital through their infusion center to get their compounding done. So in light of that, I reached out to Ken Keller, asking him if there was some way that we might be able to do the same thing. He indicated that we would be able to do that. They'd be happy to help us. Worked with his chief operating officer, Jamie Campbell. We worked out an arrangement for that. It's basically a $50 charge to do this. Again, we don't do a whole lot of compounding per se. It's been typically mostly for the COVID patients. One of the things that we can do, obviously, because they require a bit of notice in which to do this, is because of patients coming in, especially someone who would need remdesivir, that's more of an emergent situation. And so under those circumstances, we can go ahead and compound the first dose, which gives us 24 hours in which to go ahead and get the extra doses compounded that we would need down in Bakersfield. And so our pharmacy staff will then bring the components down to them. They will compound it and then bring those back as compounded solutions, and then they can be infused at that point in time. We actually did that on Friday for 2 doses for one. We're just finishing up his remdesivir protocol. And from what I understand, it went well. Again, one of the things that we did agree to, again, the only time that we've really had good results for the air sampling within the pharmacy has been when we had a HEPA filter in the unit. And so, and we had a HEPA filter in the unit until about 2 days prior to them taking the last results, because we had an influx of COVID patients and we moved it out onto the floor in order to accommodate the patient safety there. And so when the results came in, obviously we didn't get what we thought we were going to get. And so anyway, we have the board approved today the 2 HEPA filters. One of those, I believe, is due in on the 16th of November. That will be earmarked for the laboratory, or for the pharmacy rather, and will be in there until we either get a new home or we find a new way to fix that problem in there. You know, again, the problem we have right now is with the ventilation system in there. It's buried up in the ceiling, above the ceiling, in the hallways out there. There's, as Bob will attest, there's no way to get at that equipment to clean it or do anything to it. And so short of, like I said, you know, providing this supplemental filtration mechanism, I think that will probably do the trick. And so, like I said, and if it does, then we obviously we can then begin compounding again. We would need to just obviously retest that we're going to do a terminal clean on the department, everything in the department, and then, you know, get the HEPA filter in place and then begin and do our retest at that point in time, which, like I said, hopefully will be another week or so before we can do that. But like I said, in the meantime, we do have the agreement with Dignity's Infusion Center to compound any meds that we might need and get that up and running again. So that's kind of where we stand at this point in time. Any questions on that?
I have a question. What is the reason we're not able to access the problem where the mold and stuff is?
That's, again, there's still some question as to where it's even coming from. You know, our best guess is that it is in the air system somewhere, either being up in the attic blowing into the pharmacy, or that our pharmacy has an external air conditioner unit in there because it gets so hot in the summer times. The regular air filter system is cooling, is not able to keep up with the heat demands and with the equipment and stuff that they have in there. And so that was installed some years ago. We don't know if it might be coming from there. You know, like I said, you know, we've tried different things. We've tried blocking off that air conditioner and so forth. Yet we still had some minor numbers that were coming through. So like I said, yeah, I mean, that's the issue we've got. I mean, literally you'd have to take out the ceiling. Bob, you want to comment?
Yeah, can I just add to that? I mean, everything Tim has said is absolutely true. The challenge we have is the Board of Pharmacy in USP 797, in adopting that, the hood must be placed in a room that is considered a clean room. That requires air that is HEPA filtered. Well, our hood is only in the middle of the pharmacy. And the pharmacy is not a clean room. The pharmacy is a normal room like any hospital room. And if you were to sample other areas of the hospital or skilled nursing, you would probably get the same minute amounts of mold, et cetera, that just comes in through the normal filtration. Because our normal air is only filtered to 90%. It is not HEPA filtered. And HEPA filtered is the only thing that can get out the minute portions of mold that they're getting. And it's not inside the hood. It is only outside of the hood in the area of the pharmacy. So there is no solution to the existing pharmacy until we get a pharmacy built that has a clean room with the hood in it, that all the air is HEPA filtered.
So is there something we should be doing to protect those people that are working in their long hours or anything? I mean, I get tested and I get injections twice a week because of just environmental. So is there a concern we should have for those that work in there?
No, I don't believe so. The air in that space is no different than the air in acute care. It's no different the air in administration.
So are we justifying up or down?
I'm not understanding the question.
The question is because it's the same air as everywhere else. Does that mean it's good?
Well, it's what you would normally breathe in. I mean, it's just what is in our air. I mean, that's the issue.
A clean room for a pharmacy compounding can have 0. And the only way to do that is with HEPA filtration. And no buildings are HEPA filtered other than special clean rooms.
So this is why I say you got issues even at Kern Medical, which is a trauma hospital. I mean, that they can't even do their own because they can't meet that standard. I mean, these hospitals, especially the older hospitals that weren't designed with space in the pharmacies to create clean rooms, this is going to be the situation. A lot of people are having this problem. And, like I said, this USP 797 was created primarily for the commercial drug manufacturing companies that were not keeping up their systems and so forth. And so their major clean rooms, they're walking around in, bunny suits and stuff like this. I mean, that's the way they work. And they're now holding all hospitals to that same standard in essence. And so, like I said, it's just one based upon facilities at this point in time that we just can't meet. Like I said, the new pharmacy will be built to those standards. It's designed for that. And, like I said, so it should be resolved at that point in time. But like I said, we're trying to find another workable solution that hopefully will get us where we need to be in order to get that clearance.
And understand that the previous test we had done before this one, because we have to do them every so often, we passed that one. So the air was very clean, but because we had to pull that HEPA filter out, because needing it for COVID patients, we got a few minute particles in. The filtration of the hospital, even the old building, is probably 10 times the filtration of the heating and air conditioning system on your house.
Well, I don't have air conditioning, so that's sucks.
Okay. Me neither.
Sorry about that. Anyway,
Okay, so the new HEPA filter that is coming and will go in the pharmacy.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that is part of the plan of correction. So.
Thanks, Tim. What else you
Okay.
got?
Just want to let the board know officially, I have received Chet's resignation. I got a verbal resignation, as did Deb Hoffman from Chet's wife. And like I said, that was effective already. And so we're in the process right now of going back and trying to, move forward with processing his resignation and so forth. I know there were some things that his wife wanted us to do with regards to some of his accounts. And so those are being addressed by Deb and so forth. And, again, she was extremely appreciative of the hospital's efforts in working with us on that. They had great hope that he might recover from that. But, the fall that he took apparently was a pretty significant one. And, like I said, she just didn't think that there's any way that he's going to be able to come back. And so I did share with her that I would like to do something to recognize his efforts. And, we will kind of get our heads together here when I get back and try and put something together. She was really appreciative of that. And like I said, that's, again, it's unfortunate. Like I said, we kind of wished him well and, hope that he would be at a point where he can go out and really enjoy his retirement and travel like they used to do and so forth. And so I still am hopeful that he will get back to that at some point. So at this point, like I said, I'm moving forward. Obviously, I've got to replace Chet. Dave and I are having some conversations with that in mind. And hopefully this will be a very smooth transition. So we'll report back later as to how that works out. So again, we're continuing on with our flu shots. We did receive the rest of our doses. They have come in. We have a date, Heidi, as to when we're going to do the community testing? Not yet? Okay. So once we have that date, we will get that to everybody. Like I said, I know we talked to the board about when you guys would like to get yours, because we used to do them at the board meetings. We will try to let you know. Some of you said that you would be willing to go ahead and go through the drive-through clinic. So we'll make sure you're aware of that date, or if need be, you can just drop into the clinic and we can get them to you over there. We're also working on our searches for rehab managers. We have found a possible candidate. Deb has, Diane has reviewed the application. She feels pretty comfortable about his capabilities. I've looked at that as well. I felt the same way. So we're trying to arrange now some kind of an interview to get him out here to talk to us and see if we can maybe hopefully get that search concluded. Diane would be extremely happy with that. Also, Deb Hoffman, again, we have posted that position. And again, I think we had at least 5 applications for it, as I recall. We've not yet interviewed any of those candidates until Deb and I get together and kind of go through a strategy as to what we're going to do there. But that's was promising to know that we got some people, and some of these, many of these were from the local community and who had, significant experience. So again, we're going to get a very hard look at that as well. I'm pleased to say that, the SNF this is in Mark's report as well. So I'm going to be doubling up here a little bit, but again, we have the SNF is open. We're back to a green zone scenario. We've admitted 4 patients into the SNF. We've got 4 more that are on standby. 1 which will probably go here shortly. And the others we're waiting for a couple more CNAs. And she's got a couple that are on medical leave. And so hopefully when they get back, we'll be able to finish out those admissions. But that takes us up to 48 right now. And so things are finally looking good there. Like I said, we can start making some progress and getting some of that volume back that we were missing. That is the end of my, like I said, the security situation was one that, again, we hope to have the amendment here in front of the board. I had asked Gary Knight to go ahead and do that. He has issued that to us. The amendment is basically to allow us to go ahead and add security for the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. shifts Monday through Friday, again, because of security issues. And again, it was basically straight at $26 per hour, consistent with what all of the others were. Because I didn't fortunately get it in time to get it in the board packet. I have not yet seen it. I know Mark has it. He will be back this week. And so the thought there is, like I said, if you want, I can go ahead and execute that. I don't know if the board needs to see it. Since it's an amendment to the original, it's the same terms as the original, or whether you want me to just go ahead and wait and bring it to the board building and planning meeting later in the month. I can do either one.
Tim, what's the additional cost for that amendment?
It's total would be about $81,000 a year. It's $26 an hour for 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, let's bring it to the board.
Okay, will do. And that's my report.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's, we're at the nursing officer report. Are we going to have one, or did we just hear it?
You heard parts of it. Let me go ahead and read it to you. It's COVID continues to be a concern in our community with the positivity rate of 23%. Rate through the ED has stayed constant with an increase in our COVID positive hospital admission rate. As of this report on Sunday, there were 5 inpatients and 4 of those are COVID pneumonia patients with both. Modified visitor restrictions continue, which leads me to a next topic of combining the pre-screening person that was approved, I think, last month with a security person 24/7. I received a revised quote from Night Security, and I would like to review the numbers more closely with Tim before proceeding. I'd like to speak with Deb Hess to prepare a statement for our community, public service announcement to help educate the community during this sustained surge. Skilled Nursing Center has been able to begin admitting patients again and successfully took on 4 new admissions, a very good thing for us. I returned on Thursday from a much appreciated and needed break. Thank you for your understanding. That was Mark's report.
Thanks, Tim. Any questions? Okay, then Dave, will turn it over to you, our Chief Financial Officer report.
Thank you. Actually, a really good transition on what we just talked about. if you all can go to page 27 of the packet. And I'm going to take my time and let you get there because we're not going to be showing it on the screen. So right on line number 1, we talk about the sustained surge of the COVID-related patients, the acute inpatient gross patient revenue, line number 1, and go up to the percent variance column, 22.51% higher than budget in the month of September. So the amount of patients and the charges that went through that area of our operations was significant in the month of September. And that all filtered down through the bottom line to the point where if you look right below line 28, the total net operating surplus, the variance in the middle there, 420,191 ahead of budget for the month of September. So we're through a full quarter now in fiscal 22. If you want to go to the next page, and you can see the year-to-date picture. And the numbers that I pointed out in Finance Committee that I consider to be significant is line 11. And that line 11 kind of shows you how much money is coming into the organization based on the patient activity for the period. And that 9,135,809 number on line 11 of actual year to date compares favorably to, you go to what it was the first 3 months of last year, the far right column of 7,503,000, and also compared to budget with the percent variance showing up right in that column just to the left of that of 13.66. So we've been had a much busier summer than both what the budget is and also what we had in the prior year in terms of patient activity and volumes. And thankfully, going down to the very bottom of on the expenses, the total operating expenses, line 28, you'll see that middle column showing 254,240. That's less expense, even though we've been busier, we have $250,000 less in expenditures than what was budgeted. So that's obviously a good combination, a good financial picture through the first quarter of fiscal 22. The bottom line right below line 28, net operating surplus of 1.4 million, which is 1.2 million ahead of budget. So clearly we're off to a good start this year. I just want to make a couple other brief comments about the accounts receivable. So I'll give you some time. Is there any questions on what I've reported so far?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So page, let's see, where am I? I gotta go to page 34. Pages 34, 35, and 36 are the 3 custom reports I did for this month to dive in deeper into the category of accounts receivable. We have had some deteriorations of performance in terms of how quickly we collect. Our money has not been as good as it had been historically. And we try to zero in on exactly what types of bills that aren't getting paid as quickly and what payers do we need to focus in on. So on page 34, if you look at, and that's the grand total of all services, you look at lines 13 and 14, and you compare, let's say, the far right column, which is the most current month of September. So for line 13, you see for Medi-Cal of 8,826,000, how our AR is quite a bit higher than it was a few months earlier. In June, it was 7,590,000. So 1.3 million higher in just the 3 months. It's going up. We're not getting those accounts paid as quickly as we had before. The other area that is of concern is the next line, the senior HMO of 7.7 million compared to a couple months ago, 7.1 million. So then when I dive in deeper, I go to the next page 35, and that's just either inpatient or skilled nursing AR. And then I say to myself, well, okay, so what, how, is it the inpatient accounts that are not getting paid as quickly? And clearly on line 14, we just talked about senior HMO was higher in total, but also specifically senior HMO on line 14 is higher on the inpatient side. So we're not getting those big bills paid by the Medicare Advantage payers as quickly as we need to. So we need to figure out what's going on with some of those payers, why we're not getting paid on some of these large inpatient accounts that are outstanding. Obviously, the longer it goes and the older those accounts get, the less collectible they are. So we need to get on top of it before it gets out of hand. The other line item that jumped out at me on this page is the Medi-Cal on line 21, and that's the skilled. And you can see, go to the far right on line 21, and you see the 5,785,000, how significantly higher that is than what it was in June of 4.3. So we're dealing with inpatient senior HMO, and we're dealing with SNF increases. And so we're going to be getting more detail and finding out why those payers are not up in getting those bills paid quicker. On the outpatient side, the following page 36 is where we see the higher Medicare line 12, or excuse me, line 12 for Medicare on the outpatient side has gone way up. You can see how line 12 Medicare is at 2,900,000, and a couple months ago it was 2.2 million. So those are areas that we will be taking the time with the business office and looking at our practices to see if anything's changed, what they're telling us in terms of the denial codes, if there's any common themes of that we need to tweak on how we're billing it. And that's pretty much it. I do want to make special moment to give special recognition to Chet as a fellow CFO. I really think he needs to be recognized and acknowledged of the tremendous track record and accomplishment that he has done for the district over all these years. I can just tell by looking at the numbers, he's really done a great job, and he deserves a lot of recognition for how the district has benefited from his service. That's it.
Thank you.
Ross, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. I had myself on mute, and I apologize. There's a button you can hit. The space bar is like a microphone bar on this Zoom. So if you're muted, you can just hit the space bar, and I hit it and started talking, and my cursor wasn't on the Zoom meeting, it was on the document. And so the document's flipping up like this. Oh, sorry for that. Dave, thank you for that report. Did any board members have any questions or comments for Dave?
Good, Ross.
No, sir.
All right. Then that brings us to item H, our new business. We have no old business, so we'll go straight to new business. And this is a resolution setting the meeting time and day for regular board meetings. It's page 52 and 53 of the agenda packet. And before we vote on this, I really want to get your opinions on whether this proposal to change our meetings to daytime hours, are the benefits worth the drawbacks, and today's our first day of doing it. But what do you think, board members and staff?
My concern is strictly for Catherine.
It works for me fine. I mean, I didn't have to wait after work. I was able to come right here. So, I mean, it works perfectly fine for me. So I appreciate it.
Okay. Obviously, it works fine for me. I can make adjustments in my office as I need to. That's Catherine was my concern.
And Jean's absence, I don't think has to do with the time of the meeting. John, does this work for you?
Yeah, like I said the last time, Ross, I can usually be pretty flexible with my time. So we'll go ahead and give this a shot. And if it works out, great. And if there is a conflict down the road, we can always, change it back to how it was before. So we'll give it a shot.
Okay. Tim, Heidi, is this workable?
It's worked for me. Yeah. I mean, obviously it'd be a little easier if I was at work, but like I said, no, I think, not having it at night and getting this done with, I think is a big plus, instead of driving home late at night, so, my bigger concern obviously is for Heidi and, what it does for her, but, I think I'll let her talk.
We'll make it work. This is better than staying late, so we'll make it work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Barbara, Dave, you guys, is this workable from the financial aspect?
Yeah, for me personally, I like what I'm finding out on this trip coming out here, it's been a lot easier on the commute. I left yesterday and spent the night last night, and then leaving today, it just seems to be working a lot better for me. So this Monday routine, I think, will work out real good for me. Not that I have to be here every board meeting, but the times that it's helpful, certainly is not a problem for me being here on a Monday.
Great. And Barbara, you're okay with this? How much does it interfere with payroll?
Depends if it hits that day. That day is today. It'll be fine.
Okay. All right. And Scott, you're here from, it looks like Lake Tahoe or somewhere this time?
Shoshone Lake and Yellowstone.
Okay.
But I wish I was there, except for the mosquitoes. This works just fine for me. No conflicts, not an issue.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think Dr. Finstead's still on. Any board members have any other questions or comments on this matter?
No, I'm good, Ross.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
Ross, let's be sure to ask if there's any public comment.
Thank you, Scott. That's a really good point. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion, Ross.
Fred,
I'll second.
John seconds. Catherine, your vote?
Yes.
John, your vote?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So we will start meeting on Mondays and we'll see how that goes. And this will be the Monday following the first Wednesday of the month. Tim, you're muted. Hey, Tim, you're muted.
I got somebody drilling in the room next door. So these will be regular meetings and they won't show up as special meetings going, correct?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
the purpose of this resolution.
Gotcha.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 2, H2, the proposed sale of district assets. And we do have a resolution associated with this item that was presented to the board here just an hour or so before the meeting started. So this is under your name, Tim. Do you talk about this or is this Scott?
Tim, you're muted.
Thank you. Normally I never put it on mute. What we have is a situation where we purchased the new equipment for the lab. It was an orthochemistry analyzer. That was to replace our old Abbott Architect unit, which is basically over 10 years old, is really not wantable by anybody. There was one piece of that whole system that was newer that someone does want to buy from us. So what we would like to do is to retire that old unit, which we need to do. We've got to, because of this magnitude of scope of that installation, we had to actually pay somebody to take it out. And so if Abbott were to do it themselves, it was going to cost us substantial funds, which is kind of ridiculous when, and they have no use for it. They don't want it. So we did find a company or two that were interested in the equipment. So our plan is to go ahead and sell off the old equipment, basically because of the new equipment being here and is up and running. That makes this surplus equipment that we would like to get rid of. And that's the Architect Chemistry Analyzer, and there's two. The second item on there, the microscan walkaway, is a piece of equipment that we're using in the microbiology department. And it's beyond its useful life. It is no longer being supported by the company. It has no value to anybody. Anybody would have to buy a new unit if they wanted to use this. So again, that is primarily just a toss away for us at this point in time. If she can find someone that's interested, she will. But so those are the two pieces of equipment that we would like to get rid of. So I do have the resolution. If you would like me to read that, I'll be happy to do that.
Please do.
Okay. Resolution number 21-8, a resolution of the Board of Directors of Kern Valley Healthcare District declaring certain property surplus to the needs of the district and authorizing disposition of the property. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of Kern Valley Healthcare District as follows. 1, purpose. The resolution declares certain property surplus to the needs of the district and authorizes the Chief Executive Officer to dispose of property. 2, disposition of property. The board finds and declares, A, that the Board of Directors hereby finds and declares the property identified in Exhibit 1, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference surplus property, to be surplus property and no longer suitable to the district's needs. B, the district's Chief Executive Officer is directed to dispose of the surplus property in a manner that in the best interest of the district. The Chief Executive Officer is authorized to determine which offer to acquire the surplus property is in the best interest of the district. If no offers are received, the Chief Executive Officer is authorized to dispose of the surplus property in a manner that is in the best interest of the districts in accordance with the law. The district's Chief Executive Officer shall report the results of the disposal of the property to the Board of Directors. Passed, approved, adopted on November 8th, 2021. And that is the resolution.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, board members, any questions, comments?
No. Ross, I'll move to adopt resolution number 2108.
Thank you, John.
Ross, Dave wants to say something.
If you don't mind, Barbara and I had a discussion this morning about this issue. We're still not where we need to be with the existing vendor in terms of the buyout amount. The ball's in their court. They need to show us why what they think we still owe on the buyout is over twice as much as what our numbers are showing. So if you could just make the motion contingent upon us being comfortable with the final number as it relates to the buyout amount.
That would be great.
Scott, can we do a resolution with that contingency?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Then John, are you okay with an amendment to your motion to that regard?
Yes, go ahead and we'll go and add that amendment to my motion. Sure.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second Ross.
Thank you, Fred. Any more discussion among the board? Okay, Fred, your vote.
Yes.
John, your vote.
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you. Thanks for your input on that, Dave. Item number 3, the administration building renovation project proposals. And this is for our building out on Mountain Mesa Boulevard. We've gotten 2 proposals from our open bidding process, and Bob Easterday is going to walk us through those.
Okay, so we posted this on the Kern Builders Exchange for a month, and we had a walkthrough date, and 5 firms that you have listed there on page 55 showed an interest in drawing plans for us. On the day of the job walk, 2 firms showed up, which was Ortiz Melby Architects and Radian Design Group. The other 3 did not show up for the walkthrough. And then on bid day, I received the bids from Ortiz Melby and Radian Design Group. So the scope of work is identical for the 2. And you have the 2 proposals attached. Both firms have done work for the hospital here. Ortiz Melby did the upgrade of the nurse call system and acute care. And Radian Design Group did the expansion and remodel of the rural health clinic. So they both are familiar with the facility. I really have no understanding of the huge discrepancy between the 2. Other than Ortiz Melby felt, I'm assuming, I have to assume that they felt there was a lot more scope of work. But both firms are very competent to do the work. And the Radian Design proposal was in the ballpark of what I expected the fee to be. So without, other than that, unless there's any questions, obviously I'm going to suggest that Radian Design be taken on board to draw these plans for Kern County building.
Thank you, Bob. Board members, do you have any questions or comments for Bob?
I don't know, that's just a big difference in the price. But no one has said why that is. I mean, that just seems
Well,
different. I mean, that's huge.
yeah, it is. And like I said, they both include the identical same scope of work. They don't give a breakdown on what they estimate the hours to draw this are. It's not a requirement in their proposal. The proposal is simply to draw plans, submit to the county, get them approved, and oversee construction observation during the work. So I was floored by the difference.
Bob, I have a question for you. Are you planning on using district personnel to do this work, or are you going to bid this project?
We have planned on doing the entire scope of work with district employees.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that is the difference in the bid amounts. It looks to me like Ortiz Melby was planning on doing a full design, management, closeout public works project, if I had to guess.
I think you may be right. And Radiant, I mean, but they both were given the same scope, and that we're doing the work, and on the day of the walk.
As long as they were both working under the same information, I don't have concerns about that. And they were both there and did the same walkthrough at the same time. As long as they're both on a level playing field, then I'm not legally concerned about it. But if I had to guess, I would say Ortiz Melby thought that you were going to bid this project and bring in a construction company.
Yeah, and everybody was given the identical same information. I do not have a burden. I've used both companies multiple times in the last 20 years. They're both very competent firms.
Scott, do we need to validate that before we move forward?
Are you talking about validating Radian's bid at 18,000, that it's
I'm validating the fact that both of them are on the same playing field and one didn't have a misunderstanding.
Well, all right. So Bob, did you talk with either firms or give them information about the project that was not shared with the other?
No, they did not walk the job at the same time, but they did it on the same morning. And so I walked them through exactly the same from one end to the other and discussed the issues and what the plan was and what our expectations were, identically the same.
Fred, I think as long as both bidders understood that the district was going to be doing the work itself, that we're okay. And if that was in the bid documents or the RFP, if the RFP specified that, then I think we're okay.
To be okay, I will be 100% clear here. That particular statement was not in the RFP document.
So I guess the question is, well, so how did they know that the district was going to be doing the work itself?
Because on the walkthrough, I told them that we would be doing the work.
Do you have any reason to believe one understood that and one did not?
You know, I'm perfectly okay if you would like to we can put together a letter asking them that information and have them both respond.
So at this point in time, the bids have been opened. So if there's any question or any concern, then my recommendation is to rebid the project, not try and sort this out, because the two companies will now have the information that both submitted to the district. So if the board is concerned at all about this, if they're concerned that perhaps Ortiz Melby did not understand what the project entailed, then I would recommend doing the RFP over, specifying in there that the district is doing the work. If the board is comfortable, then, you know, then I'm not opposed to the board moving forward today, but that,
Yeah, my only comment is that having worked with architects a lot, it doesn't make a lot of difference whether we're doing the work or an outside contractor is, other than they might have a few more requests for information to answer.
Can't hear you, Tim.
The chances are we're going to ask the same questions, though. I mean, because, you know, again, there's going to be questions that come up even by our staff as we go through that. So one way or another, like I said, I like the idea of going back and validating. You know, I don't necessarily want to rebid if that bid is in fact a good bid. Don't really want to lose that and risk, you know, now that it costs us $10,000, $20,000 more. You know, but you know, again, if we understand or go back and revalidate with them that yes, in fact, they knew that you know, that the hospital would be performing the work itself, that if they're fine with that, then say fine, okay, thank you very much, and then you know, we move forward with the lower bid.
So from
No
my
issue with the
perspective,
lower bid. I think it's a great thing for the hospital to save a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, from my perspective, you know, obviously they either, you know, charge a lot higher, charge a lot more, or we're expecting it to cost them a lot more time than the other company.
Well, the other aspect of this too is that sometimes these guys will put a bid in just to be competitive out there, you know, and not really wanting to do the job, but you know, again, hey, if you pay me this amount of money, I'll do it. You know,
They'll do it for that amount.
so
Sure.
there aspect.
So
depending on what other work they got going on.
the Radian company, I hadn't heard of that name before, but I see that it's signed by Mark Russell. If he's the principal, that guy's top notch. I worked with him for years.
Yeah.
And if he's responsible for this project, and you know, I'm comfortable with the amount that he's proposed. He knows what it takes to get a county permit, which is what we're after.
Right.
He'll get it done. So I'm okay moving forward with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have a time frame on drawings?
Okay, so if you approve to go ahead today, then what I will request from Radian is a schedule on the amount of time they need to draw the plans, the amount of time expected to be in plan review with the county, fact checks, et cetera, and have them give us a timeline that is reasonable for them to accomplish this work. No, but I have not yet seen anything where an RFP would say this work must be done in 3 months or, or something to that effect, or 2 months. But that would be the next step, was to ask them to give us timeframes that they will meet.
Yeah, because obviously we're sitting static until we get this done.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, Catherine.
If we did have someone else do the work, what would be the time frame versus someone doing the work versus in-house doing the work? The building's been sitting there for a while. So I'm just kind of wondering, would it be in our best interest to get it up and get it done? Or, I mean, what would be the time frame of somebody else doing it versus in-house doing it?
Bob?
6 months, a year?
Okay, well, I expect that it will probably take us in the neighborhood of 6 months doing it in-house. It could be a little shorter if we hire a contractor, because they would bring in more manpower. But that isn't always the case. For instance, our front parking lot that's still not paved. That was, a competent contractor who has had other jobs that he put in higher priority than ours. So I can't really answer that question of whether an outside contractor could do it faster or we could do it faster in-house. It's probably approximately the same amount of time.
Well, it's not to say that we can't go out and hire a couple of additional guys to help do the work. So be done.
Yes.
Yeah, Catherine, I would expect it to be probably at least 2 months longer to use an outside contractor, and I would expect it to probably be 3 times as expensive.
Okay. Thank you.
And the reason I say that is because as far as the time to do the construction, I'm not disputing what Bob is saying. He would know better than I am, but you'll have to get the plans, and then you'll have to go out and bid. Then you'll have to review the bids, and the board will have to approve it. Then you'll have to do a notice to proceed. And that's a 4 to 8 week process just doing that.
And so everybody is aware, we have already started the demolition work. We've removed the paneling from all the suites. We have uncovered, a lot of old issues electrically, and we've removed all the, inappropriate wiring. It's just all preparatory work that, that has already been completed.
Bob, what do you anticipate that the cost of the project will be? Because I'm sorry, I was just getting back to Catherine's comment. If it's going to exceed 25,000, not including architects, but if it's going to exceed 25,000, then you will have to bid the project.
Even doing it with in-house staff?
Yes, any projects that exceed $25,000 have to be publicly bid.
Okay, so being done in-house, do I include labor?
Yeah, all costs associated with the project.
Then obviously it would be more than. But then obviously we couldn't proceed with starting the construction work with my staff until we have completed documents and we go out to bid and go through that entire process.
So it's a process that's going to happen anyway.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, you cannot get around the public bidding law by doing it in-house. Any project that is $25,000 or more has to be publicly bid.
Yeah, that sells that.
It's just money. I mean, what the heck?
It's time to.
Sorry.
Okay, all right, so do we have any more questions or concerns on moving forward with Radian?
No, I'll motion we move forward with Radian, Russ.
Thanks, Fred. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
John, thank you. Any more board discussion? I'm not sure if I asked for public comment on this. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this agreement? Okay, hearing none, then Fred, your vote.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. Thank you. We'll move on to H4, construction planning consultant. And this was a matter that Gene wanted to discuss, but with him not being here,
Hey, Ross,
we don't have the benefit of his thoughts. Yes, Fred.
just so you're aware, Gene reached out to me after our last meeting when we heard about the fiascos going on. And had asked me if I would join with him in looking for a construction planning consultant. I basically told him when he has time and he wants to sit down, come on over and let's talk and we'll work on it together. So that was the last communication we had.
So what is that? What is a construction planning consultant?
I'm not sure what Gene is calling a construction planning consultant myself. I wanted to hear from him directly. I believe what he is talking about is basically a project manager personally, but he's calling it a planning consultant.
Okay.
What I recall from the conversation was that you can hear me, right? Was that he was looking for someone to take a look at the project just to assure that this all makes sense. It looks like a good project and so forth. There's more of a validation, as I understood it, than anything else. Like I said, you're not going to go out probably and find that person. You're still going to have to go out and probably find a construction, management group to oversee the project anyway, which would go out to bid and all that other stuff. So there's a process we'd have to go through for that. So that was what I recall of his comments.
Yeah, and let me
I
say
think that's
that,
what it was. I think it was like a general contractor that does hospitals or whatever that's going to oversee the whole thing from plant, all the way through. So from my understanding.
Yeah, you wouldn't do
was
that.
my understanding too.
Scott?
yeah, so construction management services falls under the same statute as architects, engineers, surveyors, and landscape architects. And it has to be a bid position. You cannot sole source that position. So if that is what the district is thinking, then you would have to do an RFP to solicit bids to fill that role.
So I'm sorry, Scott. So if we're doing that from in-house, like if Bob's doing that, is that another thing that we still have to put out for a bid? Like the other one?
So Catherine, how that works is generally the district is the owner of the project and the district has a project representative and Bob is that project representative. The district then has an architect who designs the plans and oversees construction. And typically the architect interacts with the contractor who's doing the work. Now, when Tehachapi built their new $110 million hospital, we also hired a project manager because the in-house facilities person did not have the bandwidth to oversee an operating hospital plus $100 million construction project. I suspect, though, that with this project, that Bob probably would be able to handle continuing on as facilities director and being the district's representative, interacting with the architect and the contractor. This project seems too small to me to need a construction management company to represent the district, but maybe it does. I don't know.
So is it something that we're just gonna table for now? Till like Fred and Jean get together, or?
If it needs to go out as an RFP, there's truthfully no reason for us to get together unless we have the intentions of the board to do so.
Well, I think what we need to determine is what the scope of that position is going to be. I mean, as it relates to the project. You know, and that's something that the board building and planning committee will have to decide on. You know, we'd have to bring it back there and obviously have that discussion.
Yeah, because obviously we need to worry about codes at this point before we can even talk about numbers.
Right.
You know, with the building and planning meeting, we got the bad news about being, you know, a year behind our construction project, and the plans having been completed by the architect to submit to OSHPD. And that floored everybody, and I don't think all the board members had the opportunity to really think about the ramifications of that and how we right this ship and get it back on track. And I think Jean's comment, which led to this matter being on the agenda today, is we need to further that discussion. Now that we've had some time, how do we proceed? You know, with the thought that, hey, you know, there was a serious breach of what we were expecting to happen, and I think, you know, the reaction was, let's get a consultant on hand to manage this process and make sure there aren't any more gaps in it. I don't know if that's the right action. I don't know if that's the right move or not, but it's certainly what Jean had in mind, I believe.
I agree with you.
Yeah, Tim, did you want to give any input from the conference call we had last week with OSHPD?
Yeah, Bob and I were on a conference call with the person who is overseeing our plans at OSHPD, along with Mike Ryan and his Eric Peterson, his assistant architect. And in essence, again, the reconfirmation is that they do want us, in fact, to go with the 2019 building codes. They are willing, it seems, to make exceptions for with alternate means of compliance for both pharmacy and laboratory, which were important to us. And so again, the decision was that to move forward with all haste in trying to come up with those difficult differences between those two plans and so forth, to keep the ball rolling. Like I said, there was, because of their decision to close out the 2016 code, they presented us with an invoice of $216,000 to close out that project. They agreed that that would be waived and that we would not be required to pay that. That will then be held over until the project is completed with the 2019 building codes. So they basically just wrote it off and so forth. So Bob, anything else you want to add?
That's pretty much it. They felt that that basically they just want the 2019 code listed on the cover sheets, and any minor things brought up. Structural has reviewed everything, and structural says that there's almost no changes in doing a 4D upgrade between the 16 code and the 19 code. He didn't see any increased costs at all, hard to speak of, that he could find. Mechanically, for air conditioning systems, same thing. There's not much in the changes in the codes for that. And so it really did boil down to the pharmacy and lab, which they were very open to the alternate means of compliance.
Do we have any of this in writing, or is it just through phone calls? Because I've heard these sort of things before, and then we pay another absorbent amount because of whatever reason. So I'd like to see it in writing or something, because otherwise it's going to come back, I feel, just from how this thing's been, how I'm seeing it go. And then we're going to owe somebody another $82,000 or $1 million and still not be anywhere.
Let me get with Michael and get him to either do because again, it was an official meeting with OSHPD. There's got to be minutes that were taken to see whether or not we can get copies of those that identify this as their agreement on those items that were identified, and move forward. We'll share those with you when we get back.
Yeah, and Tim, remember that Oshpod said that, yes, there will be minutes, but those were to be typed up by the architect because they do not have staff to do so, and submit those minutes to Oshpod for approval. And then we would get them back that Oshpod has accepted them.
Okay.
And what's the time frame for that? Do we have a time frame?
No.
No, like I said, I know that they're moving forward quickly. They've had conversations with all of the engineers on the project, and so they're all under the gun, obviously, to get this thing moving forward again. So let me get Mike Ryan. I'll find out when we can get those minute issues for you and get those back to the board.
Okay, so I know you said you're gonna see when we can get those, but can you say, will we have them in 3 weeks? Will we have them? I mean, I'd like to have a date because we just keep moving backwards. Reverse doesn't work in my car very well. So I'd
No,
like to just go forward. That's why, I have brakes, but
fully agree with you. Like I said, I'll get it with Michael right away, right after this call, and see when he can have that done, and get back to Oshpod. And like I said, there's no pushing Oshpod. I'm just telling you, that's their date is their time. So
right,
will-
but we're not talking about Oshpod, correct? We're talking about the architect getting them and then send that to Oshpod,
Correct.
right? So we're
They
not
have to be
talking about
Oshpod.
rushing Oshpod. We just need to make sure that part's done and back to them.
correct. That
Okay.
I found right away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The last November timeframe, about a year ago, we had made an investment with our architect and had him do this conceptual design plan to submit to OSHPD to basically hold it be a placeholder to keep us on the 2016 building code. And with the thought that we would be submitting the construction plans before November of this year, or less than a year or sooner, maybe even conceivably July timeframe, July 2021. And that never happened. Where did this fall down? What has held up the process that's kept this from moving forward like we had planned?
The issue comes back, like I said, Ross, from what I can tell, is the fact that Oshpod's failure to communicate back with us on requests that we submitted. We went up there, Bob went up there, they had a meeting with Oshpod, they reviewed our original schematics to how we were going to comply with the project and get this thing done. They had the initial approvals and so forth, but they've never officially blessed those changes, the change orders we wanted to do for compliance purposes. And that's really what's held them up. Like I said, we've been moving forward with drawings and stuff like that, but there's some things, like I said, that we could not pending those changes. The decision by Oshpod, like I said, was, again, even the architects were floored by the fact that they came out and said, wait a second, you got 1 year and now you're up. Because that has not been a practice that had been, or it's not been something practiced by Oshpod. Even while it existed in the code, the vast majority of projects that they were involved with went well beyond a year before they cut them off. It's just, like I said, you've got someone new in charge up there right now who basically is going back and saying, hey, this is what it says, so I've got to go ahead and do that. His other concern, like I said, because he was the guy we spoke to, was the fact that of concern that, again, his concern was obviously locking in a building code that would, at the time we actually got to the construction portions of this project, would be almost 2 iterations beyond those planning years and planning documents. And so his concern was, he said, I really didn't want to leave that hanging out there that long. So that's why he's pushing us. Because even by the time we start building this thing, we're going to be in 2021 or 2022 building codes that will come up. Well, I think it's 2 to 3 years out. Every year they issue new codes and new adjustments. to those codes. So that's what I can tell you.
Okay, so the big ticket item for us under the 19 code was the lab, bringing the lab into the hospital, because we just don't have the space.
Correct.
You know, and as we were estimating is going to be a $4 to $5 million hit to us if we have to do that.
Right.
And so now they're saying, well, we can make an exception on that. And is that something we can believe? If this guy's such a stickler by the book, when it comes push to shove, is that really going to happen?
He's the guy that's doing it. You know, so I can't answer that. You know, like I said, you know, we've all been suspect of Oshpod. Like I said, I was very surprised by the amenable tone of the meeting, you know, that they were, yeah, oh, no, this isn't an issue. And the two architects from Oshpod were on the call. You know, didn't have any issues whatsoever with what we were proposing. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, we told Michael, I said, listen, we've got to get this thing into their hands as quickly as possible, obviously, to get these things blessed. And so that they're moving forward with it.
Okay, that it's going to be real important for our architect to understand he can no longer wait for Oshped to make a decision before he finalizes the plans. He's obviously going to have to do the plans as he thinks best and submit them and be told, no, you can't do that.
Yep.
Hey, Ross, the bigger question I have is this. We've been writing large checks every month to these guys. If they've supposedly been sitting on their heels waiting for plans, what are we paying for?
Bob.
We have been moving through the process of drawing plans in the different phases, and that was all spelled out in the original cost proposals. And we have not paid ahead of what is actually completed.
Correct. We've only paid for work that's been done.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yes.
So in looking at the invoices, because I've been signing checks this week and I've happened to come a Greenbow invoice. And yeah, I believe that is the case, that we're still working on the design stuff, but that should have been done a year ago. Or at least 6 months ago. Are we holding it up?
No, I don't believe we are.
Because it sure seems like they're a long ways away. I know that we're paying them monthly, but it doesn't even come close to what we owe them for the work that's been done. Will they move faster if we pay them in full for what we owe?
I don't think that's been an issue because they've just done it. You know, they know that we're going to pay them. They're not concerned about that. I think at one time they were, but I think they're beyond that point. Again, I would be happy, Ross, if it would, if you would like to speak directly, or you and Fred, whoever you decide, to directly to the architects and have those conversations, just for your own, education, satisfaction, whatever. Be happy to set those up.
Oshpod gave the architect in the conference call last week, gave the architect a deadline to be done.
And what was that deadline, do you know?
End of March. There's still a lot of drawings that have to be drawn and detailed.
That's 9 months beyond our internal deadline.
That is true.
So in my mind, it needs to be sooner than end of March, but I'm sure he's going to listen to Oshped and not to us.
Even if it goes to Oshpod, then how far are we behind before we ever see anything?
Well, the rest of the year.
Yeah, so now we're 18 months to 2 years behind start date.
Yep.
Yeah, that's entertaining. With the cost of materials going up, that doesn't help the project.
Under our envisioned time frame, we were going to start turning dirt and start construction July of 2022. We won't have the permit by then.
No code back.
So this is David Cooper. I spent some time this morning with Barbara. We're putting a plan together. I've already got a draft document that Chet started on some of this detail in terms of the original contract with Greenbow. And then I plan on going through all the detail, probably with Bob Easterday, and really understanding everything that's been invoiced so far, so that we can get to a point where I give a presentation and the board can either be comfortable or not comfortable with what we've paid so far based on how the original contract was laid out. So Tim has already asked me to start on that, and I'm going to consider that a real high on my list as a priority.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, sir.
So this concept that Gene had about basically having a point person just for the construction project, and I guess it comes down to Tim and Bob, is we throw a lot at Bob. We throw a lot of things at Bob, and maybe this construction project, on top of all the daily responsibilities he has, is just beyond what can be humanly expected. And maybe we just need to hire an additional body just to do this construction project, or contract it out to a consultant. I don't know if that's the case, but maybe that's part of the reasons for these delays. I don't know.
Well, I personally, I think it's a good idea. Yes, we have Bob. We throw a lot of things out at Bob, but ultimately it's Tim's responsibility. Because we just voted, not we, but voted to give him a benefit to keep him an extra 7 years when we've lost 18 months. We've lost 18 months of what ultimately falls on Tim. But yet we want to keep him for the next 7 years to keep this thing on track. We should have paid for the next 10 at this rate. I'm just saying.
Not disagreeing with you, Catherine.
Well, I don't know. It's just really heartbreaking. I mean, we want the community to count on us, and we cannot provide.
So, I don't disagree with what you've said either. And perhaps it needs to be said, but moving forward, how do we fix it? How do we make sure we don't run into these snags again?
I think we hire somebody that has the capabilities. I mean, we throw stuff at Bob, we throw stuff at Barbara and Heidi, and we hold Tim accountable to all of them. So I think we need to hire someone that's going to be accountable, that's going to help us stay on dates, stay on track, and get the jobs done.
So Tim, can you start putting some kind of RFP together? Perhaps with Scott's and Bob's input on getting a construction consultant on board for us? You're muted.
I can do that.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think, clearly, I think we're all disappointed that the thing is delayed. There was a lot going into this thing to get this thing started and pre-work and so forth. And we had great hopes, that we would hit those timeframes and so forth. But, again, like I said, I do know this thing has been moving forward. The issue as it relates to finding someone to help manage the project, I think at this point in time makes some sense. Obviously, we do have a lot. Bob's got a lot on his plate. There's no question about that. I do think that, Bob, obviously, his knowledge base and everything else will still be integral to the project and so forth. But, again, we're still dealing with a 50-year-old building that has lots of problems, as we've seen, that still need to be managed and so forth. So, like I said, let me, we'll get on this and we'll start talking about this, and I'll meet with Bob and come back and like I said, we'll come up with some kind of a document to look at doing something like that.
Okay.
Ross, can I ask-
What's that?
Was that? I don't know who's talking.
This is Bob. I would like to just say something. I am perfectly okay with that. I do feel that I'm spread a bit thin. And if we can find somebody to do that role, I would be gladly support them 100%.
Thanks, Bob. Scott?
Ross? Yeah, so a question for the board then is, for purposes of the RFP, are you looking for a consultant to get a project on track? Or are you looking for a project manager who will get the project on track and then oversee the project and be the district's representative during the construction phase as well?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that today. I don't know where the other board members are, but my interest today is getting the project on track.
Sure. I have interest both ways. Okay, just so you're aware.
So in terms of drafting the RFP, we kind of need to know the answer to that question, because we will frame the RFP either as a construction management RFP that includes the whole construction phase and all of that, or we will just do it for a project consulting. Let's get this on track, and then when we start the work, the architect is essentially our rep. So, I think I suppose we could do an RFP with 2 phases and the board could decide, but that question will have to be answered at some point in time.
I think, what's critical also, and then I know Fred, you want to chime in here too. The issue is because this project is broken up into so many pieces, it's spread over a long period of time, so obviously the question becomes, do we want someone to be technically on payroll for that entire time, when there's not maybe construction going on in between phases and those kinds of things. I think the plan, the way it was designed and the way we originally conceived of it is that obviously as construction is going on one phase, the finish up work is being done on the next phase, obviously so that we can get that one ready to go and loaded right behind the other one. So we can kind of drive these one right after another. And obviously some of the phases are a lot less work than others, just because it's you put in a wall here, or something there. So, again, I think those are conversations we'll have to have with whoever, bids on this, from a perspective of, how do we do this cost effectively?
Ross, may I make a suggestion? How about if Tim and Bob and I sit down and sketch out a game plan for this, and we can discuss the phases. We can discuss the CEQA review that's been done for the project. And then at building and planning, we can come back with a proposal for the board.
That sounds like a winner.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds good.
So that's our action. Then it's not something we need to vote on, but you 3 will get together and you'll pitch us a proposal at our next building and planning meeting.
Okay.
All right. Board, you good with that?
Yes.
Yes, Ross, yeah.
Okay. All right, gang. All right, then we are to item I. Thank you all for your discussion and input on this. I think it's important. I think this will be a good step forward. And gosh, we need to get this thing back on track as soon as possible. So item I, director's comments on items not appearing on the agenda. John, I'll start with you.
Just reiterate what you said, Ross. I think there's been a lot of great discussion today. I apologize. I haven't been speaking too much. I've got a cold and my throat is kind of scratchy, so I apologize for not all of the participation and not being able to see me, because I kind of look like hell too. So that's why I'm not on camera. So I did want to just reiterate real quick what Dave said about Chet. Yeah, I'm sorry that Chet had to retire after 20 years of being with our district. 17 as our full-time CFO, and 3 years before that as the regional CFO and Brim Healthcare was running our hospital, but you know, Chet did a lot to keep us out of debt default, and we had the bonds with Cal Mortgage. He was really instrumental in the early years of making sure that our hospital didn't get foreclosed on. We almost had to file for bankruptcy. I just wish Chet well, and wish him a speedy recovery, and just wanted to say thank him for everything he's done for the Kern Valley Healthcare District.
Thanks, John. Well said. Catherine?
Yeah, I'm really grateful for everything Chet's done. I mean, I've been around him for a long time and worked with him before, and when I worked here before, and he's really done a good job. And I know sometimes we get a little worried because he'd spit out some, at least me, he'd spit out so many numbers, I would be lost because he loves numbers. But yeah, I've been really grateful for and thankful for the time he has spent here. So he will be missed. I don't know if there's something we can do, whether it's a donation or do we still do the Tree of Life or anything like that? Yeah, so I mean, I think that would be something like that would be a good idea, I think.
Sometimes a special plaque prepared by the board to the family and to Chet of appreciation to kind of commemorate everything he's done.
Good ideas.
Yep.
Thank you. Catherine, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Fred?
John, what you said about Chet, you hit it on the head with everything there. My only concern is with items that transpired last week. Being KVHD, I don't understand how we have the majority of our upper management all off on the same week. Heidi, I don't have anything to say other than you're a friggin' rock star, and I don't know how you pull off what you do without blowing a cork. Tim, I understand surgeries, I understand vacations, but when there is no one there other than, you know, what I'm going to call the supervisors of those little regions to handle when we have auditors who enjoy showing up unannounced, makes no sense to me whatsoever. There is no reason Heidi should have been put into that position that she had to go through. And I'm just glad we got out of it as well as we did. And it's just unfortunate that she was the one taking the brunt of it.
Understood. Thank you.
Anything else, Fred?
No, I'm good, Russ. Thanks.
Thanks. I have a couple comments too. I want to thank Heidi and Lee for the extraordinary efforts they did last week to basically take charge, take lead on getting the audit completed or the survey completed, while still continuing to do their day-to-day jobs. So much appreciated. Extraordinary efforts by both those two individuals. Boy, it sure was. You think, you know, okay, we can push the envelope here, and you know, if anything comes up, we'll be available by phone. Well, maybe that's not the best plan for the future. So I'm sure this will never happen again, but when our CEO's gone, our CNO's gone, our medical director's gone, and the lab manager's all gone on the day that we have an audit coming in from the state, it's like, oh my God. What a terrible situation. So learning lesson here. I'm sure this will never happen again, but we can see what happens when the circumstances, all the stars align in the wrong way. And we talk about this later offline, but I'm sure it'll come up again at some point. But I do want to welcome Dave aboard. Thank you for
Bob Easterday, please dial extension 226. Bob Easterday, please dial extension 226.
I want to thank you for stepping into Chet's shoes. I know they're big shoes to fill, but from what we're seeing, you're right on target. You obviously have got a good handle on being the CFO. You understand all this stuff backwards and forwards, and the way that you're able to point to us, really, here's the things that you really need to be looking at. Here's the important stuff. I really appreciate that. That's such a big help to me as a board member.
Thank you.
So look forward to working with you for many years to come. And I'm glad you're on board. Thank you so much for being here.
That's all music to my ears. Thank you.
You know, we've got really an extraordinary organization, and I'm so proud of the district for what we're doing. We've had just difficult, extraordinarily difficult last 18 months to 2 years. And then, you know, you put this construction project on top of it. I think we'd hoped for the best, and you know, it didn't all happen. So I don't know that there's anybody to blame. You know, you break it down and see where things might have fallen through the cracks, and we learn from that and move forward. And so that's what I'm hoping for. Let's continue to work together. I think we've got a great team. I'm happy with all the players that we've got in the room, and we'll just keep on plucking away and we'll move forward. So thank you all.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. We'll see you all at the building and planning meeting in about 3 weeks, and enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Have a good one, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.